police officers. When the chief took over in 2006, I think we were at 252. We're currently sitting at 231, and we will lose additional vacancies this year through attrition that we will not be able to replace.
But from last year to this year.
What about though in the Main Street? I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm
What
basically
about the
asking.
Main Street area though? That's what this board is really concerned about.
What's the budget shortfall?
Yeah.
Well,
Read one.
you know, when you talk about the CRA, that has been staffed for several years out of the CRA budget to staff the additional officers. The patrol shifts really haven't changed much since then. We have struggled over the last year trying to keep our patrol staffs, you know, up to par and to keep it, you know, we want to make sure that all shifts across the board, east side and west side, have certain numbers of people. And we've been struggling all year with minimum staffing for various reasons, but you know, I don't know what our staffing's been reduced in this last year. I know that we've some of our overtime budget was cut this year, and several more $1 million were cut off our budget.
Well, that's something when Reed comes back to us next month, maybe he could bring that forward to us too.
Yeah, I don't know what the actual reduction in the CRA budget was, though.
Well, that's what
I don't
we're
have last year's numbers.
Right.
I don't have those numbers.
That's what we're hoping
Right.
to correct. You
Right.
know?
The budgets are down everywhere. I mean, from CRA to the police to fire to everybody has been cut.
Thank you, Captain.
But you know, Mr. Chairman, everything we do in the district is as good as the police in the district, and that's a top priority. And I think the improvements we've seen are a direct result of the police presence in the redevelopment area. And so I look at it as just one person as a top priority for us to make sure that we maintain. We have neighborhoods in our city who are passing the hat themselves to provide additional police protection, and there might be some method. There are all kinds of methods to raise money for something as important as police protection in the district.
One of the, I guess, even when I was against CRAs years ago, the one positive aspect of it is the fact that that you could actually hire police officers, you know, as part of it through the funds, you know, and I mean, but anyways, but we'll look into that.
Any other questions for the captain?
I'd like to make a comment. When we owned the motel, which is back in '03, we sold it. Ted, remember Glenn Cook and Ted Pearsall?
Yes,
They
ma'am.
used to come to our desk every night when they got through a briefing, and I would tell them who to look for and what problems we had had. And that community policing really worked.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm happy to see it coming back.
Yes, it's coming back. Unfortunately, it does come with a price, though, because I have to take resources from other areas to do this, but I understand how important it is, and you know, we'll survive.
Tracy?
One other question. You had said for the first time in 12 years we had under 1,000 burglaries. Is that
Yes.
residential and commercial?
Yes, combined.
Okay, so do we know between those if one decreased significantly and the other increased?
Well, the bulk of it is the bulk of our burglaries are residential.
Okay.
So I'm going
So
to
it's
say
still
that
the
it's
bulk.
residential, yes.
Okay. And just out of curiosity, how helpful has the state attorney's been in prosecuting, the state attorney's office in prosecuting?
They're good. You know, nothing is perfect, but they've been, you know, they know, you know, when we go to them and we tell them that we have particular people that are problems for us, you know, we tend to get a lot of cooperation from them.
Okay.
Especially in your area, we have a group, and we like to make that group a project, and we want to make sure that those are the people that definitely stay locked up.
Okay.
Thank you, Captain.
Thank you.
Code enforcement report?
I do not see code in the room, so take that as a no-show.
Okay.
Yes.
Next item we have is a presentation dealing with the ice rink and the holidays at the beach program. Reed?
Yes. Want to simply introduce the people that have been involved directly with this and worked very hard on this effort. First of all, Al Smith, he's the creator, and the person from the city's end that had to manage This process was Mr. Paul Wetzel from Support Services. They're both here to present, I believe. We're going to start with Al. Is that correct, or
Do you see this?
J. Paul?
We don't have that.
Very good, thank you.
We don't have that.
Good evening, and Happy New Year to all of you. Paul Wetzel, Support Services Director for the City of Daytona Beach.
Oh, the CRA.
As Reed said, my job was to make sure that what we had in our contract was followed, and that it went as well as we could. And I can tell you, there were a lot of challenges. The first one we ran into is we didn't have enough power at the facility. And we were going to make sure that this occurred. So we authorized the rental of a generator, and the generator was very good, not too noisy, didn't bother the people staying in the hotel or any of the restaurateurs or other businesses in the area from what I heard. I was down there not daily, but as often as I could get down there to check on how it was going. The first week I was a little afraid because there weren't a lot of people in the rink during the day, but the evenings picked up quite well. And then as it went along and people got used to it, they found it to be a very beneficial thing. But I'll go back to the generator. We made the decision after meeting with Florida Power and Light and all of our electrical people here at the city, and decided that the generator was the only way to go at this time. We had the generator installed. I was told approximately how much fuel it would use, and I think they're wrong by about 50%. It really used a lot of fuel. That is the biggest weakness I think that we had to it. The generator wouldn't have been too bad if the projections on the amount of fuel used were correct, but I found that they weren't. We were running almost $5,000 a week in fuel, just to give you an idea of how it was running. But Al is going to give you a presentation on how the budget worked and where we stand as of today. There might be a few bills yet to receive, and there might be a little revenue yet to receive. I'm not positive of that yet because I don't know exactly all the things that Al was doing outside. He was the one that was out promoting it, finding people to sponsor as best he could. People who wanted to sponsor could do the backer boards, or I think they called them something else, boards, dasher boards. I think that's from the hockey. People dashing into the walls, some on their own and some by the help of others. But anyway, I'll let Al talk about that, and I'll then answer any questions you may have for us, okay?
Very good, thank you.
Thank you.
Al?
All right, good evening. Al Smith, 154 South Beach Street, Daytona Beach. Appreciate y'all's efforts here. I have served on the Downtown Redevelopment Board for, I believe, 12 years, and the last 2 as chairman. So I appreciate you spending your time, as Tim and I were kidding earlier. It's big bucks we get to do all this. So, but before I talk about the skating rink, I want to talk about holidays at the beach and what I think was an extremely successful promotion and activity that we're able to accomplish in what we have determined to be the E-zone. And I handed out the brochure, which basically breaks it down for you. This was not just, while the ice skating rink got the most attention, there was a lot of other things that went on during this period of time. This is a 47-day activity starting on November 22nd and going to January 9th. I worked very hard and closely with the county in creating lighting as well as the city of Daytona Beach. So we had lighting and decorations from the crosswalk of the pedestrian walk at Ocean Walk all the way down A1A, a significant 40-foot Christmas tree in front of the Ocean Center that got a lot of attentions, decorations there. Continue up A1A, and then we did some decorations down Main Street to do that, to set the mood, to set the, to create what we hope will be a tradition in our community, and lighting being a huge part of that. When we did the tree at the Ocean Center, so we started on a Wednesday, which is the Wednesday of Thanksgiving, opened the skating rink and skated every day from there, as I said, until this past Sunday. On the Saturday of Thanksgiving, we did a light-up night in front of the Ocean Center and coordinated pretty remarkably all at once. All the lights went on at the same time. We had, approximately 2,000 people there, and where I get the 2,000 number is based on the number of cookies that we gave away at the Ocean Center, so we felt like that was a very successful event. We had a lot of families out there. I think as we move forward and we're looking to market this area, what I continue to hear is how do we make this more family friendly? How do we create activity at a time of year when it's traditionally very slow through there? So the county stepped up and did significant lighting there, like I said, at the Ocean Center. When we get to the, and I just want to say the goals of this, and I've heard a lot, man, there's been a lot of misinformation about what the intent here was. This was never presented as a money-making opportunity for the city or myself or anyone else in the sense of, here's a way to make money. This was actually a rare opportunity to create an event that does have some return in terms of income to it, and the skating rink is that. And we copied, and J. Paul as well went to Winter Park. Also, St. Augustine has done a tremendous job there as well in creating these skating rinks. The company we work with is in 30 other markets throughout the country, and these have proven to be great economic drivers and bring a lot of attention to the area. But I tell you, the one thing those other 30 markets don't have that we have, which is we have oceanfront ice skating on the beach, which proved to be an amazing buzz throughout the community. I've done events in this town for 25 years. I've never done anything that created as much excitement and total joy as the ice skating did. So I think we, did that in terms of creating economic impact, creating a family-friendly, safe environment, and the uniqueness of the ice skating. Also, I think one thing that we fail to think about sometimes is that we're looking for others who have the ability to invest in our community to come here and see what's possible, and not just come see this at a time of year when things are dead and go, well, that town, nothing's going on there. I think the ability to create a lot of activity during that period of time, I think for those who might be interested in investing in our area, we're able to show them what's possible. So I think that is a very key thing that we're able to do. As far as the ice skating rink, I will get to, let's see, on the numbers that we got, and as you heard, the generator became an issue. Up until a week before that, I was under the impression there wasn't enough power, so that was a bit of a surprise to me as well. We had a great partnership with a local business called the Daytona Ice Arena, and any of you that got out there hopefully got to see. These guys are very passionate about what they do, very experienced about ice skating, and really did a good job in customer service and really providing that experience we need. We could have created a great rink and had all that going on out there, and if we left it up to those who don't know much about ice skating or didn't know what was going on, I think we would have been as less successful than we were. But when we look at the numbers, and I'll be glad to pass these out for you. Like I say, we're still wrapping up. We still have payroll. I mean, we still have the skating rink. It'll be dismantled for the next 2 days. It'll be out of there Friday. So we still have work that's being done. But I'll go over these real quick, and you can read them for yourself. We had our goal was we had put 12,000 in the pro forma. Honestly, I was hoping we would get to 10. We got to 12,629 skaters. On December 31st, New Year's Eve, we skated 626 skaters. And I think the important part there is we also, as part of Holidays at the Beach, we have New Year's Eve on Main Street, which had its largest crowd ever. And we had a lot of family-friendly activity going on there. The ball drop was a real hit, a real point of interest. And there was concern that we would pull people from one area to the other, and what happened was we really activated the E-zone, as they say, and we created a lot of activity. I don't believe I only know of one incident throughout the whole night of any major consequences related to anyone breaking the law. 626 people in one day is a huge number. Just kind of blew away the staff we had. The admissions, we collected 117,000 with our goal was 120. Sponsorship dollars, we raised 22.5. Our goal was 25. Our total revenues were 137,359. I think that one of the most significant things is I met on numerous occasions with the Ocean Walk shop owners. As we know, that property is in receivership, and so we have some struggling merchants there. And they were quite leery in the beginning as to whether this was a good idea or not. You can see just from a cursory phone call or two that Kim Ellis made, we saw significant increases in sales. I became everybody's best friend down there. Cold Stone Creamery was up 200%, Wing House 30%, Starbucks and Sloppy Joe's were up 60%. These are significant numbers for those of us in business at a time of year when you are not used to having income. We have people who had shifts that might normally not have gotten a shift. We got people that maybe were able to make rent that they weren't able to rent, and we were able to show off that area at that time of the year. I believe other businesses in the area also benefited from that. So right now, with not all the expenses submitted to date, we have 179, which includes the rental fee of the ice skating rink, which was $89,971. That kind of concludes what I'd have. The other thing I would like to point out is there is a significant amount of marketing that went on with this that would not go on otherwise. The News Journal was very supportive in this event. They ran a contest that was in Go 386 each week where they gave away a family pass of 4 to go skating. Bright House saw this as a huge event. I was given a deal from them, or we were given a deal from them that promoted this event, mostly the skating, through all 9 counties that Bright House covers. And what I was told at the local, or Channel 13, Channel 13, this was a major sponsorship that they gave that I was told has never been given before to anyone in Volusia County. So we were, I didn't really know what I had until they explained to me, but it ran in all 9 counties. It was significant. We had Channel 35 come out and do 2 segments in a morning show where they interviewed Keith Smith, no relation to me, who ran the rink. And you could see as the sun was rising, him skating and the ocean behind it. Channel 2 and Channel 9 also came out and did stories on us. And those of you who read the News Journal know we got extreme amount of positive press related to that. And anyone who knows about marketing, you can't afford to pay for that. They don't sell that. That you have to earn. And I think this event, as I said, brought a lot of positive buzz to it. Black Crow Radio also gave us 3-for-1 on the deal that we had with them. Also, we used 107.7 in Orlando, the station that plays Christmas music 24/7 during the holidays. We had a giveaway with them and a significant schedule that we ran with them. So those things would not happen without some type of activity or something that attracted people's attention. So I think from the marketing side, whatever that loss turns out to be, and my guess is that it's going to be somewhere that the amount of money we lose, if you want to look at it that way, is about the amount we spent on the generator and the diesel fuel to run it. So with that said, I am open to questions. I apologize if somehow I was to be here. Dave is my witness. I was willing to meet with anybody, anytime about this, and continue to have a lot of enthusiasm about this, and I'm hopeful that we can learn from some of our mistakes this past year and move forward and make this even a bigger and better thing that we can grow on next year and become a tradition that we all can be proud of.
Well, first, I want to thank you for coming.
Mhm.
I think the event was great from a PR perspective and everything. I think your numbers came out better than I anticipated they would from what I'm seeing here. But I think the whole concept of getting something going down there, I'd like to see it spread through the neighborhoods. I'd like to see, lighting contest of houses and things like that,
Yeah.
or, even get businesses to sponsor houses or something like
Exactly.
that, to get them all lit up so there's, people have a place to go see. And, draw more and more people. It'd be great to have that as a core for a solid month down there.
Yeah, let me speak, excuse me one second, but we knew going into this 60% of the income was going to come the 2 weeks these kids were out of school, and I think there's some angst that got going a little early when they saw the numbers were low, but that was kind of our knowledge going into that.
Yeah, and I think there was a lot going on in the community and, misperceptions and all that kind of thing, but the concept of getting up, stepping forward, having the guts to do that, I commend. And I think we need to work towards doing more things that promote the entire area and the concept, because it won't be something that'll happen. Someone won't just go there once. They'll end up going back, and they'll be back for more ice cream and back to bubble gums and everything else. But the one quick question with respect to the generator, are we going to deal with the electrical problem for next year and not have to have a generator? Because it sounds like it's a nice 220 power you need down there or something like that.
No, 480,
480?
600 amps at least.
Ooh, that is a good chunk.
Yes. And that's
Well,
why I say
a
it.
lot of-
Yeah, you just don't
understand.
pull a plug.
Don't pull the plug, but I have already talked to Florida Power and Light. They are going to work on it. They're just waiting for me to give them the final amps that we need. As I said, it's 600 at least for what we're looking at possibly.
And you're going to put more in than that just to,
Yes, sir. We want to be sure that we have the ability to serve anything that comes in at the band shell.
that's...
Even there, we're weak, and we know that.
Okay.
And so, yes, they're waiting for me. I contacted them last week. It's interesting. I was gone a week. And where was I? I was in Prague at the Czech Republic and Dresden in Germany, looking at their markets. I say I was looking, my wife was shopping.
Yeah.
Okay? Yes, right. But their concept is a month long. And it is not one particular area, is what I really learned. Going from the train station in Dresden to their downtown square, their main square, it's all along that avenue, and the square is fantastic. And I've got pictures. I brought them back to show Mr. Chisholm and anyone else who would like to see them. In the Prague, in the Czech Republic, we were 2 blocks off Wenceslas Square, up at the top of it. And you can look down the square and you see these throngs of people. But at the end, no driving. All public area. But that wasn't the main square. The old square is the main square. But they had that area, all of these little kiosks, and they looked like they must have been owned by the city, rented to vendors to come in there and do that month long.
They are. They are.
And it's fantastic to see that, because it goes from Wenceslas Square to this other little area to the astrological clock area, and that's the main square down there. And you see that and you realize it can happen, but it's got to be a destination. It's got to be something that people want to come to.
It's 650 years old.
Yes.
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 It
I
is.
was going to say, their
They're-
Christmas
they're
markets
old.
are very different.
But they had to
also
start
cold.
sometime. They
Yeah.
had to start
And
sometime.
St. Augustine has evolved this, and several other areas have evolved
Right.
programs, and, it just takes more than just the ice skating rink. It was, I think, smart to include the Ocean Center and get all that in, and then we need to
Yeah,
get
they're
the Main
all
Street,
called
then we
Christmas
need to get the
markets.
surrounding neighborhoods.
They're all called
Right.
Christmas
down through to
markets. They're
Beach
not
Street, make it a
holiday
whole,
markets. They're
you know,
Christmas.
Whole corridor
We hope
of
to.
activity.
We hope to.
Mr.
But
Chairman,
we'd
before
like
you-
to be sure that it is, the people who are there, the business people, are part of it.
Yeah.
And I've got to say, that's the one thing I think I was disappointed in. The Ocean Center shops, and we invited them to be part of it, and they didn't want to come out of their shells. And that truly was needed. Because I know I talked to some people, they went to your place, Dino, to get refreshments and enjoy it, because it was right there along the beach, surprisingly, when the other places are right there. They said they didn't want that. They wanted something that was a little more, I guess,
Carnival-like?
carnival or friendly or right there. And they were disappointed too. But we'd like to see that. We'd like to see them be part of it. We'd like to see all the merchants down there partake of it and benefit from it.
Well,
That's really what it's
okay,
for.
I know you say, I have to comment on that.
Go ahead.
One particular thing. We partake in things year-round, and that's why we have our buildings. I know the city in the past has asked me, well, why don't you participate? Why don't you come out and put a tent? I'm not a tent type of person, I don't believe in tents, I don't like them. I have my people who work for me year-round. They operate my business, and I'm not in any way saying anything negative about the ice skating. I love the ice skating. But we were there year-round. We provide, the bathroom facilities. We do whatever, and a lot of times those tents irk me. I mean, they bother me. I mean, I'm like, a lot of times I see the person behind there cooking something. I'm like, well, they don't have the training that my people have to go through. They don't have the hand washing facilities behind there that we have, and it's not as sanitary as what we provide, So I don't want to come out of my shell and open up a tent. I want to stay in my shell, but I enjoy having the ice skating rink. I enjoy having, I see that as a positive event. I was in favor of it when you came and talked to me also. But you see where I'm going with this, and I understand, Conestoga Creamery, they were up 200%, but to ask them to come out and go under a tent and sell ice cream is not the same, but we're all part of it, we're all in it together,
Gary?
Yeah, before we get lost in a kumbaya event here, I've got some questions I'd like to ask, and I'd like to put them in context of some recent information from the county. And it's a short paragraph. Local tourism impacts $3 billion last year. Last year, Volusia County attracted 7 million visitors who pumped $3 billion into the local economy. The majority of visitor spending was with local restaurants, grocery stores, retail establishments, lounges, gas stations, and the like. The tourism and hospitality industry also helps to keep our residents employed, and it generates an annual payroll of $430 million. The Daytona Beach share of those numbers is 78%. So let's use that as a context to move forward in at least some questions I have. First, I would like to state categorically that I, as one member of this board, am very much in favor of the use of city funds for celebrations during holiday season. There is no hesitation, and I don't think I heard, there are a couple of grumpy types around, but most people were in favor of the use of city funds for events like this. From what I've been told, the majority of the funds that went into this event were general fund dollars, with a very small portion of redevelopment money. Is that correct?
There was a separation between the ice rink was the, would it be considered general fund?
Well, it's one of your city line item funds.
Right.
It's not funded by the redevelopment
But I mean,
dollars. It's a
Right.
general fund cost. Is that correct? Yeah, well, that's what we were told at the last meeting.
Yes.
Well, when things are paid for by general fund dollars, then I start to look at them slightly differently than if it's a redevelopment area event paid for with redevelopment area money. And the ice rink raised some questions to me. Not that it wasn't an interesting first-year project, but I had to look at the fairness issue of using citywide funds to charge people $10 to ice skate. And I have an equity problem and a parity, a fairness problem there with a city with a population of 38% minority and a population with some economic challenges. I'm having trouble overriding this fairness issue, which I think is highly regressive to a large portion of the population, let alone businesses within a block of the destination. And I live on the beach side and frequent businesses, and Rossellini saw no increase, the Ocean Deck saw no increase in business. businesses all up and down A1A, other than right in Ocean Walk, really didn't see the 200% of the creamery or the 75%. And the more I looked at it, the more I saw this as not a citywide event, even though it was paid for with citywide dollars, and the fees that were charged, and I know, Al, I heard you say this morning you might go to $12 next year, even makes it more regressive and less participatory by larger numbers of citizens, because if in fact we're going to continue to fund it out of general fund money, I have some problems with that. Now, I know that there are other models that other cities have used. I would like to think that in the future, Al, the band shell is used more as a band shell rather than a location for an ice skating rink. I think Peabody Auditorium offers us incredible benefits, and the Echo Gallery in the Ocean Center is a huge untapped source. And I heard you very cleverly weave together what the county did and what the city did, and how they should, one hand should help the other. But we have, our responsibility isn't with the Christmas tree and the county lights and all the stuff that happened at the Ocean Center. Our responsibility is really with the Main Street redevelopment area and some of our funds. If in fact this is going to be a 47-day event, does the budget we have that you handed us represent 47 days? Or is this just the limited budget for just the single ice skating rink? I think it is. So I'm assuming there's another budget out there somewhere for the other days that were involved in the series of events. Yeah, is there another budget out there?
Philosophy, but I don't know what the question is. What's the question?
The question is there another budget other than this isolated budget just for the ice skating rink? Because you told us there were 47 days of events.
I said that, well, there was 47 days of skating, and there was 47 days of the lights being up, and there was different activities that went on at the Ocean Center, and there was New Year's Eve on Main Street.
Yeah, I appreciate all of that. So there is no, these are the only figures, cash figures that we have.
Only cash figures I know of.
I believe you said minus payroll, and there were still some outstanding. When you first gave that to us, I thought you said that there was still payroll.
There's
I'm
still a
sorry.
breakdown of, you know,
Have
what-
trouble
There was
following.
there was a further breakdown. We don't know the whole.
There's still, I think, payroll's always a week behind, so we've still got one payroll, and then we've got 2 people out there this week working, so.
And I'm sure
Okay.
That's-
you will include the in-kind contribution of the rental of the site. I'm sure will
Well, that was a
include-
contract between Al Smith Productions and the city, and the way that we negotiated the lease, so the lease is different than it would be, and that was, so, no, that would not.
I'd love to see a copy of the lease, too. I
Sure.
think that might be more
public record.
helpful, rather than have an isolated piece of paper here. I think a presentation, maybe we'd have fewer questions if we got the whole packet of what the deal was. That's the problem. We tend only to find out in dribs and drabs of what really happened. And there might be no questions, Al, but I think we need to see how the whole thing
Okay.
works. I need to see how the whole thing works together. Al, have you gotten a commitment from the Convention and Visitors Bureau that they'll continue to fund the marketing of this event with CVB dollars in the future?
Gary, the event ended Sunday, and today is Wednesday, so no, I haven't had a commitment from anybody yet. I want to get through this and see how we all feel about it, you know?
And what were the dollars that the Board, that the CVB?
The CVB for the overall project, their total was not to exceed 30,000.
Okay. And, well, in order to budget for next year, you either have to know if they're in, or you're going to have to pick up the 30,000.
I think there's a lot of things we need to know before we get to next year, absolutely.
Okay.
And a whole year, and I must say, a whole year to plan this is a luxury we did not have this year. And, I was pushing on this thing from June, but I think, there's a lot, as you heard earlier with the police department and the numbers that we're dealing with, there's a lot of uncertainty that we're all dealing with. I think the Joe's Crab Shack coming along certainly helped this project come to life. And
You and I had a
a
conversation.
great leadership of the mayor, who really saw this as something that he wanted to pursue. So that's how
I'll
that
hum
got
while
done.
you continue. you and I had a conversation on the radio, and you shared with me it was 2 years in the making, that you had 2 years to plan
But
this
there were some
event.
contingencies
Yeah.
that were not foreseeable, like the
Yeah.
electrical. you
Yeah.
know.
Well, but they should have been. There's a readiness factor when you're going to do an event like this. It really should be anticipated, but let's forget about that. My math shows $9,000 missing, even if you factor in 300 freebie kids. And also, how was the money handled? Where was were there daily deposits?
Yes, there was daily,
Okay, and where were they deposited?
they were deposited to the cashier's office at the, here at City Hall.
At City Hall?
And we
okay.
did a,
If I could answer. That was, I will say, they weren't always daily. They were
Okay.
the next day.
Well, if
Okay.
it's a weekend.
Okay.
It wouldn't have been there.
Okay.
That's
Business day.
That's right. But there were also, I don't want to ever mislead anybody on this.
Okay,
There were days where it might have been 2 days before he got it into us, or 3, not including weekends.
and
So,
how did you do, at the museum, we had to make sure that the person who opened the mail and stamped the checks was not the person who did the deposit slip, and that person was not the person that made
Right.
the deposit. How did you handle that?
City Finance Department drafted a form that we used, and everybody who got one of the wristbands, they were numbered sequentially.
Okay,
You had the number at the top of the report, and the final number that was used that day on the report too, so you knew how many wristbands were used. You could check with the wristband
okay.
group that we had, the box of them, and in turn, that number had to fit what was on the dollar amount that was
Okay.
put in there.
So you felt that the financial safeguards were
I think they
satisfactory?
were.
Even though there's 900 people missing? And,
I think that you'll find that they'll be part of your final report.
Okay.
That you will see everything is accounted for and comes to the dollar amount, because Finance Department, that was a big situation we had where they had to count the money too, to make sure it was deposited properly, and it had to balance to a penny with the report.
okay.
So I think you'll find that when you get your final
No, I
report.
rely on your,
It'll be
you know
there.
what you're doing in that area. Well, in summary, Al, I think it was a very interesting first-year event. I salute you for doing it. I do think that the overemphasis on Ocean Walk properties, using city money, might be a problem in the future. I think there might be a better way to deal the cards so that there's a fairness issue. I am increasingly nervous about using city money to then charge only residents who can afford it to take advantage of this underwritten event, and I hope there's some way you could expand the number of freebie, skaters if you do this again in the future, because we're paying twice for the event. I also heard you today say you were interested in adding additional events
Yes.
and making it grow. I think that
Absolutely.
is
As the
terrific.
chairman indicated, yes.
Yeah, I think that's a terrific thing. And that sort of sums up both questions and comments. We're allowed to do comments, too.
So I see.
Thank you, Gary. Tim, anything?
All I have to say is, I don't think anybody went into this thinking that this was gonna be a huge money-making event, especially the first year, and I know that you started a little bit behind the 8 ball, because you did get started late on it, and so you do have a whole year for it. And being one of those businesses right across the street that didn't see an increase in business, I was very happy to see it take place. A lot of people that came through the store that I would tell about it that didn't know, and that'd be the only thing I'd tell you that could be improved on, is maybe to get some of these flyers and posters out to some of the businesses in the area
Yeah.
to get it, so people that maybe were just here for the day and didn't know it was going on, didn't turn on the TV or the radio and listen to hear an ad for it. But just we spend a lot of money for events that don't benefit everyone all the time in the city. But this was a great PR event for us. It brought people to the area that wouldn't be there. I know my kids went to it. I know lots of my friends' kids went to it, and it was a positive. And this is something to build on. But just the I don't know, just the insinuation that there was monkey business going on with the money and things like that.
There was no insinuation of that.
Well, that was, to me, that was the tone, and that's That's just my comment.
And we're allowed to comment.
I'm allowed my comment. So I just, Al,
It wasn't intended, it wasn't intended.
I think you did a good job. It's a good starting point, and hopefully we can build on it and for next year and years to come.
Thank you. I'd just like to add that the $10 fee was the lowest of any of the markets I looked at, and that we also included that people were able to skate all day, which meant that they could leave the rink and then come back, which I know was helpful to merchants in the area, so. to your
And
point.
I also, the one thing I would just say is, I'd much rather see events like this that are family-oriented than more party-till-you-puke kind of events that we tend to go for in this city so often. So I think this was fabulous at this time of year. And there was a lot of really positive feedback from people who went there, you know, patients of mine, friends that I saw. And so I do think it was a great start. And I do think expanding it more, I realize it's the first year.
Yeah.
But expanding it more is, you know, the right way to go.
Good, thank you very much.
David?
Yeah, I guess being the fifth in line here, there's not a whole lot more I can say than, because it was a great event, Al, I believe. I never expected you to make money the first year out. I definitely agree with Timmy and on some of the comments he made. I didn't see an increase in our direct sales at our stores, but overall, we got a lot of good comments. A lot of people at Thanksgiving time, they were here for Turkey Rod. When I did show them the pamphlets, you know, headed down there to the event. I don't agree with Gary about reducing the fee for anybody. If you can find sponsors to let them buy a block of tickets and give them out that way, that's one way of doing it if you wanted to. But one of the problems that I've always seen in Daytona Beach, Volusia County, is we give away our county for free. People have a problem parking at the garage to go see their kids graduate, $2 to park. I mean, it's $10 to skate all day long for a day of entertainment on the beach is pretty dang cheap, and I don't care who you are. So good luck in the future, and if we can be of any help down
Well,
the
Dave,
road.
you're a huge help, and appreciate that. And the two things I would add is that one day we had Maui Nix actually took a night and brought down foster kids, and I think we skated like 50 kids that night that they paid for. And then Halifax Health, which was a sponsor, they have a program that they're working on, get kids moving again, the type 2 diabetes epidemic we have in our community. And they paid for the first 100 kids that skated on one day that they had promoted, which we ended up being about 130 that we did that day. So
I think, you know, to answer Gary's problem is there are a way of getting, you know, the underprivileged of the community a way to go skating. We did it years ago with the junior lifeguard program. When I sponsored that, we paid for the police athletic league to bring kids over to the beach and do the junior lifeguard program. And I've talked to you throughout the event since it started at Thanksgiving time, doing some of the other events, sand sculpture that we had talked about, getting Altimus, the lady,
that's right. So,
whatever her last name is, to come and maybe do some kind of Christmas holiday sand sculpture on the beach. I agree with Dino in not bringing the stores out of their shell or whatever you call them. We don't need a bunch of tents down on the boardwalk. And now we start looking like itinerant.
no, just to give you a quick idea is it would probably make the tent that we had about 10 foot wider, and then put what we'd call a snack bar that somebody that actually works in the rink could also do that. So you're talking about minimal, so we're not intriguing too much. But the things people are looking for, hot chocolate.
Well, if you did that, I
hot
would
dogs and
definitely
that
make sure you went to one of the local businesses in the area first, give them first right to be the vendor.
Well, no, actually, we're talking about within the rink and having the people there. It's really, honestly,
No,
it's
what I'm
not.
saying is I wouldn't want a ice cream company or a hot dog
No,
company
no.
from DeLand coming in and being the
No, it would be
vendor.
part of the rink itself.
I know,
You
but
say and have a local vendor from the
Ocean Walk or
Walks,
the Boardwalk.
Boardwalk area.
I think to Dino's point, having run a restaurant for 11 years, once you take one step outside your restaurant, you're in a whole nother business,
Yeah.
and you need
I
a
know.
whole nother set of equipment, a whole nother set of
We
rules.
said, and give them a shot.
Let them have
No,
right refusal.
we did, and actually, that's what
Yeah,
Paul
they do
addressed,
want
is
to.
we did, and really, and Dino kind of answered it, which is they really don't want it. And so the amount of money we're talking about people spending that snack bar isn't going to
No, I
Take
think
away.
No, I agree.
Right.
Yeah, the concept of being able to sit down, have some stools, watch your kids skate, let them skate, you know,
Exactly.
rest, sit back out there without even have to take skates off and such, and just chill for a little bit and make it more than just getting out skating and going home.
But Al, as you've seen in the past, how the littlest things can get blown
Yes.
out of proportion when you're doing it.
I know.
But anyways, thanks a lot for all your hard work you did down there.
Teresa? Any comment?
You know, Al, the first time you do something is the hardest, and after that, it's a lot easier to refine it and tweak it and make it better, but I just want to commend you. This year, what I thought was a very difficult year, you brought the city and the county together to get behind this initiative, and I thought it was great for that area. And I also think it's time that we in the city stop worrying if somebody gets a boost and maybe everyone didn't get that boost. Because to me, this was something that was good for the whole city, even though it may have occurred in just this area. It was something the entire city could be proud of. And I know I made 2 trips over there, and to me, the unspoken number is it was a spectator sport.
Yes.
Because there was always at least 3 to 4 times as many spectators as there were skaters. And here again, it was something for people to do in this area, and we need more things like this, in my opinion. So I think I want to commend you for your efforts. I thought it was a wonderful event for this area. And this is our tourism area, and if we don't do things like this here, you know, then shame on us. But I thought it was a great thing for the area, great thing for city, and I'm very proud of what you accomplished. I thought it was tremendous.
And with the
Thank you very
year ahead, I mean, you're going to have no problem. This was an experimental thing, you
Yeah.
know. Now everybody knows that it was a success. I mean, you know, losing 42,000 actually is a success. I thought it was going to lose a lot more, you know. But anyway, you know, sorry.
I had a lot of sleepless nights myself, you know.
But and you got time. I mean, people are going to want to sign their name behind it. 'Cause
Yes.
It was a very positive event too, you know.
Virginia, any comment?
I have a question to ask you. Who's going to make up the loss that's occurred?
Who's
In
going to
revenue.
make, well, I mean, basically the city, yes, the city.
Oh, okay. And that will come out of the CRA money. It'll come out from the general fund
I'll
of the
let
city?
General
Peter.
fund.
No, that money has already been, that was already pledged money, so from the city, not the CRA. So that's general fund.
Al, I gotta commend you for even thinking of this and leading our city forward. I do think that the tree at the Ocean Center was gorgeous, and I just think you have done a wonderful job getting this thing going. You had some innovation that most of us wouldn't have thought of, and I commend you for what you've done.
Good. Well, thank you very much.
True. Al, thank you for coming. I might suggest, though, if you could come back, assuming you're doing this next
Yes.
year, like, you know, when you get plans formulated, September, October at the
Well, it'll be
latest.
long before that.
I
and-
say
and-
maybe, hopefully, maybe June or July.
Yeah, when you get your ideas
Yes.
formulated and such, so we can be briefed ahead of time, we would truly appreciate
Yeah,
that.
and you know, as I said, as I started, I serve on a redevelopment board. I I know how sometimes you feel left out or you're not included, and you have my promise that I will bring whatever I have forward and look forward to your input to it.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
One other comment, I checked with I forget who it was with the city, and they said under the rules of the city, they did not have to bring it before this board. Because I was a little tiffed over it, and I called and I said, how come we didn't hear about this? And they said it was not a requirement.
But I think if we ask Al to come before us.
I have no problem with it. I think all this came down real fast, and sometimes you got to move as fast as you can to get something done. That's what
Right.
we did.
Just to clarify, the only money that came out of the CRA was for the lights on A1A, right? That's the only.
Right, just slightly under 25,000 this year.
And that's all part of a lease program that we leased out in, 5 years?
5 years.
Our lights anyway.
Bandshell and A1A and Main Street.
I mean, that.
Bandshell, A1A, and Main Street.
Yeah.
And I'd like to add to those next year, believe me.
Right, and then, and that also, but that includes the maintenance, to put away, to bring them back.
That's
out,
right.
put 'em
It's
up,
not-
everything.
That's for them to, yes, put them up,
Clean 'em
take
up,
them
put 'em
down,
away.
store them, clean them, keep them, put them back up next year, yes.
Yeah.
I was watching them taking the bows down today, and they were very careful the way
Yes.
they were handling those bows and putting in a special place in that truck so they wouldn't get crushed. I was
right.
very, very impressed as I was sitting with my husband at the barber shop, watching them take all these decorations
Right.
down. And I was shocked. They were very careful with the way they were handling it.
Well, that's money. So,
Al, Paul, thank you.
great, thank you all very much.
Thank you for having us.
All right, public comments. Do we have any public desiring to make comments? Come forth, state your name, address, and you will have 3 minutes, please. 3?
We'll do that shortly.
John, maybe.
John gets 7. John Nicholson, 413 North Grandview Avenue. The lights of the 17 lights that were out, they're all basically back on. There's still one bollard on the boardwalk behind the bandshell that's not on. The bandshell light itself is not on. There's one that's kind of loose and whatnot, but basically they're working on it. We've lost another business on Main Street. Big Kahuna closed a couple of days ago, so that's 3 in 2 months. We really have to concentrate on Main Street. There are 3 areas basically on Main Street. You've got the area from A1A to the ocean, which is distinct and different from A1A to Peninsula, which is treated differently from Peninsula to the river. I would ask you to consider making all of Main Street, whenever you do anything, privy to all of your funding, et cetera, because right now you did the decorations only for the middle section. The other 2 sections were left out. You're putting in urns and flower pots. Again, it's going to the middle section, and the other 2 are being left out. I think we should treat all of all of the Main Street together whenever we do anything. It should all be considered. There are about 100 signs, a little over 100 signs on Main Street. A lot of them are redundant, a lot of them are confusing. I would ask you to look at them to make sure you need all of them, because it really does create an eyesore, a sign eyesore. Again, I was glad that you all talked about a budget. The other CRAs have budget meetings, they have the budget presented to them. You're the only one that does not get to see a budget or discuss a budget. I've heard people on your board say you don't really want to discuss it. I think it's something that you should be aware of, how much money you have and where it's being spent. Why we ran out of money, I don't understand. You usually do your budget for an entire year, and how you could spend it in 3 months and not know how you did it is something I think you should ask about. I think you need a holistic approach to your events. This event that we had was not a biker event. If you can have a non-biker event that's successful, I'm talking about New Year's Eve, I'm talking about the ice skating rink, you can do that throughout the year. So I'm asking you to consider, and apparently it appears that Al is your de facto promoter. I know the others put out RFPs and got requests for proposal and had people do presentations, and you guys are not going to do that. I wish you would have, because I think it's very important that you have a qualified person having events throughout the year, because not only does the Ocean Walk need this promotion, A1A needs the promotion, Main Street needs the promotion, and so does the rest of the CRA area. All right, thank you.
Thank you, John. Anyone else?
Ouija Condig, 718 North Wild Olive. Happy New Year, everybody, and I guess I can take my time reading my statement. There's been a lot of discussion from certain groups about extending Biketoberfest an extra week. There's also been the assumption by certain groups that all beachside residents are in favor of this. I don't believe this to be close to the truth. I think it's time to ask ourselves the following questions about these events after all these years of promoting it. 1, what has it done for the quality of life in our neighborhoods? 2, who has benefited the most from these events? 3, what is the real tax cost in exact dollars to residents? 4, what has the anything goes attitude done to improve the image of our city? 5, why would we want more of this? This isn't economic development to me in any real sense. It is quite the opposite. It does nothing to promote our year-round businesses. Extension of this event would provide a few extra jobs for a few extra days, but it also brings people to town looking for those jobs and people preying on our tourists, meaning drug dealers, prostitutes, and criminals. And this element doesn't leave when the event is over. They invade our neighborhoods and ruin our quality of life. How will we get meaningful, diversified economic development here if we continue to promote 3 a.m. bar closing, free drinks, wet t-shirt contests, etc.? These events haven't helped my neighborhood or other beachside neighborhoods. Main Street is deserted and Seabreeze looks awful almost every weekend. It is my belief that any business is better than no business, has dire economic and social consequences for our neighborhoods and for our entire city. We as residents have a right to challenge our past when things aren't working and create a new reality and vision for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comments? Moving on then to item 7, the temporary parking lot for DEV 21200. Reed.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman?
Oh, I'm sorry.
I would like to declare a conflict of interest due to a financial interest. on
Okay,
this
with
one.
respect to this issue?
Yes.
All right.
Filled out.
Thank you.
All right. This is the temporary parking lot that's been already before us once before. Back in 2009, the site plan was approved at that time for a 2-year period. Since then, as you know, I think most of you know that we changed this last year the ordinance slightly, and in doing so, there's some new requirements here, and the conditional use has expired, and it's time to get renewed. The applicant has engaged Design Engineering. They've provided a site plan that's in your packet. They have also, just today, I was not able to retrieve that landscape plan that they also have, that's an upgrade from what you have in your packet, which is the one that was submitted for 2009. And there was a number of landscape materials that were in there that needed to be upgraded, replaced. The applicant, Gilbert Meyer, is here tonight. He can speak to this issue. But he's been out there already doing some upgrade work, and that is intended to be what he's showing in the new landscape plan. But like I said, it just came in today. That's been to complete out the application that's been submitted. So we're just getting most of the documentation that we needed for our technical review. I've tried to cover everything that we have up to this date. Hopefully you've all had a chance to read this, maybe even visit the site. And if you have any question in particular about my staff report, I'd be glad to answer it. And again, Mr. Meyer is here to answer any questions that you have.
I first have a question. Do we have submitted everything that's required to be submitted as part of the application? Because in reading through this, it looks like there was a great number of items that weren't here, and I'm curious how we can review it properly without having the application complete.
I think you could review it and not have a storm, the St. John's letter. You could make that a condition. That's done. You could make the TRT. I think I say in the end of my discussion here that you certainly could make some of these conditions that this is all taken care of before your approval would take effect. Again, if there's something substantive that's not here and you don't feel comfortable with it, that's a decision you can make tonight.
Well, and just looking at it, I'm seeing things here that I'm not comfortable with at this point, but, I'll take it to the board and see what other comments we may have or questions we may have. Gary?
Reed, do you have any problems in your first option, and that is to pass this, but based on the applicants being in compliance with all of the issues that are noted in the application? Do you have is there a downside to our doing that?
Not if we do our job as a staff to make sure that all of the requirements are met.
Isn't that in every case?
Yeah, it really is. It's a good
Well-
point. And we're talking about, in Article 18, the landscape requirements in particular, where the details are. And when we do that, we do require at the end that the landscape architect is not only sealing the plans, but is certifying that the work's been done per the plan.
So you feel comfortable that your first option is a doable option? You feel comfortable with that?
I feel comfortable.
Okay, thanks.
Leave it to the board.
I-
Thank you.
Any other questions on this side over here? Okay. Actually, I agree with Dan. I'm uncomfortable since this is a conditional use. This isn't just a site plan approval. All the conditions have to be met, all the criteria have to be in effect, and the approval of the use is subject to the site plan that's submitted. So not seeing the site plan in its totality for a conditional use is different than just a regular site plan approval. But one of the things that is missing, and I'm not sure if I heard you say that this had come in yet, a redevelopment project being identified for this site?
No, that has not been,
Has there been any discussion, even when all of this was happening, that there was a redevelopment project?
there was all along an intent by the owner to find someone to locate there and have a project, but.
But we
again,
haven't
there's
done that yet. I mean, there hasn't been anything actually serious. There's just
No, there has been, and there's been some serious interest in assembling property in the past, but that's, if you look at that whole area, and I think maybe Mr. Shelberg, Meyer can speak to this, but
Well, before you do, I have more questions for staff.
From our end, there has been a lot of inquiries about that property
Okay.
around there and assembling pieces of property at some point. It's just the economy hasn't gotten to the point
And when
where it's
was the
happening.
last inquiry, would you say?
I'd say that was about a year ago.
Okay, thank you.
We had some serious
Mhm.
inquiries assembly.
Okay, thank you.
Makes a difference.
Mhm.
Any other questions for staff? Truman?
Reed, I'm a little confused on page 2. It says the technical review team reviewed the original 2009 site plan and offered the following comments. And the first one, so you're saying that now as it was approved in 2009, that was before I was on this board, but that you're stating that what's out there today does not comply with what was approved in 2009. So I guess I'm kind of curious what that all means right there, really even what our approval means then, because obviously this board in 2009 approved something that never happened.
No, something did happen, and we've lost some, I think, palm trees in there and other plant material.
Okay.
And
so
there's-
it did not address, it doesn't
This-
say it's deteriorated, so it was kind of confusing.
No,
But I
there's,
just, I went through the site and I saw that there has been a lot of plants added on the exterior of the picket fences.
that's correct. Recently, that has happened. I'm saying that at the time when we were doing the review, and there had been some changes, and the applicant had all along planned on making those changes. And typically, you don't make the change until you get your site plan approval, and then you go in and you put more plants in.
And there have been changes in the requirements since 2009. That's what we did. That's
Yes.
what I think that is addressing.
Right.
That's how-
Like I said, it didn't make what was approved in 2009, that's what I was just.
Yeah, I think it was just.
There was
not-
compliance with what was there, and they completed everything they had to at that point. The problem is that over time, we've lost some of that plant material, seen it, and the understanding is that we would have a new site plan, and we would go through a new process here, which we're doing tonight.
That's my only question.
Okay, any other questions for staff?
Um,
Virginia?
On page 3, number 4, the fence shall be constructed of vinyl or the finest grade cypress. I've never heard tell of finest grade materials. My husband's a contractor. What is finest grade materials?
Number 1, select. And I can assure you it's not. But, does that do it for staff questions?
Actually, I had one other staff question, and it was based on actually what Mr. G was just saying about, we have I guess all of this is the current site plan from Zahn Engineering, and the one that was loose by itself that's not stapled to the others says existing fence is to be repaired, and then the other one says proposed picket fence. So are we repairing something that doesn't meet requirements, or are we putting in a total new fence that does?
Okay, let me clarify what's in your packet.
Yeah.
So there's a one-page, that's the new site plan. You do not,
This.
that's correct. What's attached as well, that's referenced in there, is the plan that was submitted in 2009.
Oh, this is 2009, all of this.
That's correct, because, that's correct.
Okay, this is the updated, so they're only repairing an existing fence. Does that existing fence meet the new requirements, as Ms. Brown just pointed out?
At this time, if it's painted and it's fixed, that was the expectation, is that it's gotten older than it has, and we didn't think that we should go to the extent of replacing the wood that was there if it could be repainted.
Okay. This is
I was
the-
down there today, the fence has been repaired and
Okay.
painted on one side so far.
Okay.
The applicant?
Good evening, first of all. Happy New Year, everybody. Gilbert Mayera, 43 South Atlantic. You know, it seems like you have a lot of questions that I might have the answers. It seems like there's a lot of things that haven't been done. I think the package was delivered with the new site, with the CDs, with everything. I started because the engineer company sent me a report a couple of days ago. So instead of just sitting down, we started to fix things already. As of now, there is two things that are not done. And I'll tell you right now is the painting the fence on the inside, because yesterday was too moist. The company came in with the sprayer and there's no way. And today they were supposed to lay 17 ton of gravel. That's not, but to answer your
Gravel or seashells? There's a difference.
crushed concrete with the spray. And to answer the questions, please, if there's any questions, I'll answer them. The site was approved in 2009. The changes from 2009 to the new city ordinance, I was given the whole thing. I went through the whole thing. I was asked to put lighting. I called Florida Power Light Company. They came and installed lighting. I was asked to put in a new sprinkler system and a new pump from the city. That was a $2,000 that I had no idea was going to come up because I had a motel over there before, but the city removed the meter. So I had to put in brand new sprinkler system. I had to put in brand new pump, brand new electricity. The fence and the gravel are the two items that were not done. And I think I talked to some of the board members, and it is Samsula is supposed to bring in the trucks, and the spraying company that came in to paint. Those are the two things. Now, I think I've talked to Reed a couple of times, and there's two palm trees on the side of Ocean Avenue that were dead, that are digged out, just waiting to be gone, and the new ones coming in. Okay, so it seems like there's a lot of questions about. There's a lot of things that are not in compliance.
I don't think that's the real question, is whether or not you've got the work done. What we're looking at is the plans and the maintenance program and meeting the criteria under the ordinance to approve the ability to meet the conditional
Yes.
uses. And once we approve that, then you do the work and the city approves
I-
that.
I-
We're not
I-
looking for it to
no.
be completed before coming in.
No, I understand that, but I started, and then the other question, Tracy, you had it about the redevelopment area.
No, redevelopment project for this.
Sorry, there is one. I signed the confidentiality paper, and I let some people know that there is something going on in that area. There are people are looking at it, but I'll tell you, one of the things that people are looking at, the parking, is right behind it. There's it used to be the Super 8 motel. They don't have enough parking. They approached me, and I said, I will talk to you, but I signed some papers at the attorney's office about a project that's supposed to go around that area. City knows about it. I would love to say more about it, but
You don't need to.
no, I signed some papers that until there is hard money going somewhere, then I can talk about it. Until that time, I can't talk about it. But there is a project, there is a development coming in that area. They're looking to buy me out, okay? As far as all the paperwork that's supposed to be done to the city, yeah, I mean, the engineering company took care of everything. They brought me the same package that the city has. The requirement from the city, I think I met all the requirement. Yes, it's not done. It's here in front of you folks to look at it, to approve it, and we go on with the work. So the past couple of days, all we did is we put a lot of landscaping around. I signed all the contracts for everything that required to be permitted to open that parking. So I'm not at standstill. Once if it's approved tonight, then the company, the Samsula will bring in the gravel, the concrete, crushed concrete, and then the fence will be painted. The lights are on every night, and the sprinklers are there. So I don't know what else is not in the requirement that's not in front of you.
Now, I know that you're going to be obviously providing signage for that
Yes,
area.
yes, it's already ordered already.
Okay, but where on the site map, can you give us like a location?
There's
of
going to
this?
be two, one on A1A in the corner, that is the old Taco Bell parking lot. There's going to be one there facing south, and there's going to be one on Ocean Avenue. And I just want to let you know, you all were talking about the Main Street party and the ice raining and everything else. We tried something this New Year's, is we opened all the parking for free. And believe me, everybody was parking. I got everybody from Rossellini to everybody all the way down by Ocean Walk was very happy because all the parkings were open. So,
Bravo.
thank you, thank you. I know you have
We have something that says there's no sign and wait, you just said now there's two signs?
There is, I've talked to the people that designed the signs. I ordered two signs, but we're talking, once I have the designer, bring them to the city for approval.
Have those
staff
been seen?
said no sign is proposed, but I'm
Right.
sure that as long as it's a maximum of 15 square feet, which I'm sure it is.
Yes, it is, yes.
Right.
Yeah.
That a lot of these items that are in red would have to come back to staff for approval, even if we were to approve it tonight.
Correct.
Right, and I get that, but that was just one of the things I was just saying, wait, we have something, let's say if we had approved it tonight without even hearing that little part.
That's why I asked it, because I wanted to have a site
Okay.
location kind of like.
And while I appreciate that you have a confidentiality agreement, do we have a copy of it? Do we have a completion schedule because part of what this is a schedule for completion of the project, so, and I'm not in any way saying it's not going to happen, but we've heard it before.
Tracy, I
And
would love for it
so,
to be done tomorrow.
but
I-
Jobert,
Yes.
it's a condition. This is a conditional use. This isn't just a site plan. So you're going to do all of this, and 6 months from now, we still don't have a redevelopment project. So that means no one's parking there? What happens with, this is a condition, and we have to meet all conditions, correct? They have to meet all conditions before a single car can be parked there. So what happens if all of this is done and we do not meet that condition?
An extension.
No, it can't be used until that condition is met.
Well, wait. That condition says that
Shall identify a redevelopment.
project, just like Bill Gary identified a redevelopment project that was
But
supposed to be
what-
an Omni 20, 30 years ago.
It hasn't been identified, and it has to have a completion schedule. It's not just saying we're going to build something, there has to be a completion
I
schedule.
understand what you're saying, Tracy, but here's the thing. The group is in conversation with the city. They made me sign some papers, and we had to back off, but they're talking to the city right now.
Are they talking to redevelopment?
No,
Okay.
talking to the city.
To the city manager. Okay. So legally, without that condition being met, it's like, where does this, if this were approved tonight with all of these conditions having to, the first recommendation prior to issuance of conditional use, that one condition could hold this up until because we don't have anything that says a confidentiality agreement suffices for a redevelopment project or a completion schedule, correct?
I would just state that it's kind of the board's interpretation as to identify a redevelopment project for the site and schedule for completion. It doesn't say how detailed it has to be, so it'd probably be up to the board's what you guys are comfortable with identified, meaning.
Yeah, it can be fairly generic, but it does need to be identified, and the conditions do need to be met before we can lawfully approve something. And that's my major concern, is there are too many of those open issues that you kind of put the cart before the horse. We all want to see the parking, but we can't establish, I don't think we should establish a precedent of approving an application such as this that's 50% completed. I think we need to see things more completed. It needs to be at least a generic description of what the redevelopment project is and what the anticipated schedule would be. It may be wrong, but it needs to be a good faith generic description.
It's not in my hands to bring a project.
You don't have to bring the project, but there has to be a proposed project of what you'd like to do there.
Yeah.
Most general terms.
Okay?
We had I was gonna say, this reminds me of Dirty Monkey, and the bar that wanted to go in, and he's saying, well, we don't need a grease trap, and we don't need this, and we're not, it doesn't matter if you don't need it. What we're bound by is this is a conditional use permit. It's based on these conditions. They have to be satisfied. And this board is the final authority on this conditional use permit. So I do agree with Mr. Webster that, there needs to be a little bit more detail than we're given. And
I've provided whatever the city was requiring as far as all the information, as far as confidentiality.
Well,
Let me
we wouldn't have
tell
so
you
much
what's
red
on
here if you
that is
didn't.
missing, okay? First, there has to be the identification of the redevelopment project site and a schedule for completion. And I believe that can be a generic description, but a timeline for doing that. It must have the materials to be applied for the stabilized crushed shell, concrete, or whatever. It must be on the site plan.
It is on the site plan.
It's,
Okay,
if you look at-
whatever the
No, they're
engineers
not.
are talking to the city, I mean, that's,
It is, I saw it right here on the site.
Oh,
plan.
here we are.
On the first page, it
everything is there,
says,
whatever.
shell area to be
No.
graded and applied with salt tack, dirt glue, or equivalent to reduce dust.
Except the maintenance plan has not, because that's
Yeah.
part of it too, and that's why it fell into disrepair. The maintenance plan is part of this. And all of you guys, when this was very evident on the corner of A1A by the boardwalk, A1A and the Hilton, everyone here said there has to be maintenance.
And then-
Maintenance is key.
Oh,
So
I
that's-
agree
that's-
with maintenance,
Yeah.
but
If I may continue, Dina.
Yes, I'm sorry.
It also says the maintenance plan has not been provided,
Right.
and I believe that is critical. The letter from St. John's, that to me is administrative. I don't
yes,
worry about that
it's-
too much. It must provide how the damaged sections to be repaired or replaced or repainted to be specified. The updated landscape plan, it says, was not provided. We haven't been provided that with a chance to review it.
It was provided to the city today, because same package I got.
Today.
We haven't. We don't have it.
But see, there's all these things that we're seeing here that are required that we've not had a fair opportunity to review. And so I'm reluctant to approve, but, if we could take a motion and proceed it.
Mr. Webster, under these circumstances, are you still comfortable, given your recommendation?
Yeah, I guess what I'm saying
Page
is, so just very clear, from a staff review of this, if I were asking the same questions, I'd be looking for the letters and everything else to be provided to us. And I'm just looking at what I think we can do competently at TRT to make sure that that's all done.
And the maintenance schedule.
And the maintenance, absolutely. All of those things are required.
Trust but verify.
I work pretty close with the city, not only this property, but on other properties. And I agreed that, maybe I jumped the fence a little bit a couple of days earlier before we got everything in. But, season is around the corner. We just wanted to get ready as fast as I
Dan?
could.
I was out on that property today, and the landscaping that you put in, I think, is in excess of what is required by the city.
Yes, it is.
I also walked down the hill, and that property along the hill there,
Yes.
I don't think that's your property, but you went ahead and enhanced it. The
Yes.
landscape lady told me that the irrigation system
Yes,
is all in.
yes, it was, yes. It's not even
I
my
think you've
property.
done a good job there, a
Thank you.
wonderful job there. And we've turned you down once, Joe,
Yes.
on that Dirty Monkey thing. And because the parking, and you can't put more parking if there's no more parking there.
Can't
So
go-
I think we should give a little bit on this with putting Reed as the handle to make sure that it gets done. And if it's not, we will have to go back to Reed and say, come on here. I think
This
that
is
we've got to give a
conditional
little
use.
bit once in a while, and to our business people that are putting their money on the line. He has run a good business. I was his neighbor on Ocean Avenue there for many, many years, and he has always come forward. He takes care of the property over there at the Walgreens that he owns that building. And I think we should do a little bit of consideration of who we're working with here. I think he has been a good, he's put his money into this city, and probably a lot more than some of the rest of us have. My comments.
Excuse me. Question.
Tim.
The maintenance thing, the maintenance portion of this, is that not the criteria established when we passed the last year, for the temporary lots? Is that not the city that will go through to inspect to make sure that the maintenance is being
correct.
up to date and all that? So it's not up to him to provide a maintenance plan, it's the city to
No.
make sure he maintains it.
No, it is a maintenance
maintenance
plan that
plan.
has to be provided. The engineers typically provide that with all of the
Oh, okay.
information. So we expect.
You expect that.
Just so you know, the timing is, we did have the information that was brought into permits and licensing today. And this afternoon it got there. The information that was expected to be transmitted to me did not make it to me, and it's not in the tracket system that we use to correspond from downstairs. So it's just, I don't have it physically in a place that I could pull it up right now and share it with you.
That's
Okay.
what, Mr. Chairman, I'm sorry.
And the other comment I have is I understand what it says inside this thing regarding the future development of this site, but we're actually holding him to a higher standard than we did that A1A property, because the only thing that we're saying that the future development of that property is a future hotel. We don't, I mean,
But they said what it is.
Tim, I think all he needs to do is
Just give a
tell us on the
general-
record
Yeah.
a generic description and
Not
what
a-
a generic timeline would be, and he meets the criteria.
What was the generic timeline that we got from the A1A, the boardwalk lot? We got that it was within 2 years, they hoped something was gonna be there, and within 2 years, they get another extension, they can come
That's
for
right.
another extension. I mean,
We don't have to grant those
no,
extensions,
what
and
I'm saying is that first 2 years that we gave them because they said, well, we're gonna try to find a hotel.
I agree.
Did you, you're gonna try to find a hotel?
Absolutely.
Within
I'm
2
gonna- I'm gonna make a comment right now.
John Bear, just answer the question, within 2 years?
You gonna try to find a hotel within 2 years or?
Yes.
Yes, good.
Mr. Webster, I'm gonna tell you guys right now, in front of the board, on the record, there is a hotel coming,
Okay.
okay? There is a hotel coming.
Eventually.
No, not eventually, faster than everybody think. I think the group already talked to.
Eventually.
Yes, eventually,
Oh.
yes. The group already
That's
talked.
all you need to say.
Not a problem.
that's all we were,
That's it?
Yeah.
okay, stop there.
Sorry.
Stop.
We're actually
Stop.
trying to get you to help yourself.
I know, but I was trying not to.
Just leave it at that.
I know, I was
did
trying.
go by the property last night, after I got out of work, and I went by there, and the
They're doing it,
landscaping, what he's saying is everything, and I'm not a big fan of these temporary lots, you can go back and pull my minutes from that meeting last year. But I believe that the intentions are there to fulfill it. He's already started doing things that myself, as a business person, I wouldn't have started spending money until I had approval of this board. But he's done the landscaping, the lights are there, the fence I can understand, you can't paint today or yesterday with the way the weather's been, but I have to agree with Virginia that, he's almost there, and that's why we have a technical review committee to get, to come through and, to give him the okay to do it. He's not gonna be able to park anything there until everything's completed, right, Reed? Am I correct?
That's correct.
Kind of like on A1 and 8th Street.
My point exactly,
Okay.
Okay.
All
right.
I'd like to make one statement, though. Before I make a motion, I'd like to, obviously after everybody makes their comments, but I would like to know, is it the consensus of this board that a generalized statement identifying a redevelopment project with a timeline is sufficient?
I think
Okay, okay, then that's what the attorney said too. Okay, so, given that.
And before you do that, wait, this is DEV 2012-00 question mark. We need the exact, should be
We don't even
one.
have the number yet.
It should be a
The
one.
number was, again, assigned today when they finalized
why I'm-
all of their application
number one?
documents.
It's going to be number
No.
one?
No.
Okay.
I don't know the number, and I'm
Well-
sorry, but it's
well,
not in the
Well,
system
Well,
yet.
then what I'm
Okay.
going to do is I'm going to make a motion that we approve agenda item 7, a request by Joe Vera for approval of a site plan and conditional use permit to allow reestablishment of a temporary parking lot located at 140 South Ocean Avenue for a period of 2 years in the RDB 5 zoning district. Couple that all items in red have been have been resolved to the staff's,
Prior to issuance of a conditional use permit, the applicant complies with all site plan requirements specified in Article 12, Section 5.2, Condition 26, and all requirements of the technical review team.
exactly.
I'll second it.
There you go.
Thank you.
Any
We already
discussion?
read it.
All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
All opposed? Aye. Carries.
I didn't
Correct.
One against.
Reed's got it. Yeah.
To complete the process with everyone here, we will submit to you the final documents and everything else for the record.
Even if I have to
Thank
deliver
you.
it myself
Thank you.
this time.
All right.
Very much.
Moving on to agenda item number 8, DEV 2012-002, text amendment on parking requirements. Reed.
All right. This one is the continuance of last month's discussion. I think the suggestions were made by everyone here in one form or another to look at the one provision that talks about
I didn't see
the extending the I consider it the remote parking, but they call it the location of off-street parking spaces. This is on page 2 of my report, Article 8, Section 2.7. And to make it much easier for people who have these existing businesses, properties that are along RDB 5, that not for new business, not for any of that that's occurring, but for permitted, uses permitted by right or conditional uses, that they could consider this new provision of having not a 400-foot restriction, which we have presently to lease some off-site parking lot, but to go to 1,500 feet, and that would occur for at least a minimum period of 3 years. They'd have to have that lease in place. So that's the first section
didn't work out that way.
that we've suggested here that would be helpful. But more than that, this again for existing businesses, this is very similar to Main Street in the configuration, the depth of the lots, and the built environment of buildings up very tight and close, and there's very little room for some of that parking on those lots. And given the tightness of that area, and I think I mentioned some other facts about this is an area that was, when it was built, it was dependent on the beach parking that was there, and I think also the fact that in the future, like Main Street, where we said we're going to come back and we're going to provide additional public parking, that this is another area, if you're providing public parking that has access to the beach, access to our businesses in that area, that's something that we've said we should still undertake in the future. We don't have, obviously, the resources to do it right now, but at the current time, given what's going on with those existing businesses, I think an exemption which is the other part that we're proposing here on the first page of your report, is something I'd like you to consider in this case. And then that would only apply to those existing businesses that are permitted or have conditional use that would occupy a space, a vacant space.
Is there a reason you didn't change the 10-year to 3 years? That's not actually changed.
Needs to be
Page-
changed.
I mean, you said it, but it's not done. It should be in, under 1B.
Let me make a correction in what I have in the report then, is that, like you said, the 3
years.
The 3 year instead of the 10.
Okay.
I missed that. I was in a hurry. And then on your third page,
It would be the
there's an item D that is really
Can be
unnecessary.
deleted.
Right.
That can be deleted.
Right, because that's what you just said.
I know what I did. I think I was going to add that section in there, and I never changed that paragraph to be for the, because, I'm not sure, let me back up. This is how we were gonna write this. I don't think we can just replace the 10-year and make it 3, because that's more than RDB 5. Okay, what I wanted to do is really repeat some of that similar language that you have that relates to the 1,500
Well, you
feet.
could just add it into that. May exceed the 400-foot restriction provided the parking area is within 1,500 feet of the main building. And you could just add the language that,
I think in 1B, we can just say for a period of not less than 10 years or 3 years if you're in the RDB 5 and
okay.
you're not a
okay,
accommodation.
that's, yeah,
Add it to- okay.
that works.
Are we ready to go with the motion, Reed?
I think so. My apologies for that oversight.
I'd like to move it.
Well, wait, I have a question.
Yeah.
The one thing you wanted us to consider on the bottom of the first page,
Yes.
parking space is not required. Basically, you're getting rid of any parking requirements in RDB 5 for whatever's there currently.
correct.
Existing businesses. Do we know how many of them this is going to affect? What's vacant? I mean, if these, because it's great to say we should be doing public, but where are they going to park?
Some of them are going to park where the parking is already available.
Some of these
And I'll-
temporary
I'd
lots.
give a good example would be it's called the Salty Dog Surf Shop is over there, and you have some others that are in RDB 5. They already provide parking. If they wanted to change that and go in and build another building or whatever, that would be under the rules that exist for RDB 5 today. It's a new building. The one difference, I believe that's in here is in the case of that 1,500-foot 3-year rule for the lease, what it says is, and we want to be very careful about this, it speaks to the existing buildings that are, or those that are permitted by right, but let's say you want to put on an addition. You could put an addition on, but you'll be able to use this remote parking as a different way to satisfy the requirements.
I know, but this is totally new language that we didn't discuss. This
Right,
very
on
first one.
page-
So
on
what
the
this
first
is
page, yes.
saying, and I get that about anyone new,
Right.
but how many vacant properties do we have there? How much parking are we, because we do have businesses that have provided parking.
Yes, we
And
do.
so now we're saying they don't have to provide anything if
Well-
they're a permitted or a conditional use?
You have to look, again, I guess there is some information here that more detail we could provide that would show you each of those individual buildings that don't have the area to provide the parking on site. I can think of a handful right now. There's 2 or 3 buildings on on the south side of A1A. That's,
But they don't even have to provide it off-site, is what this language does. They don't have to provide a single solitary space between now and whenever.
right.
That's what it says.
And the intent there is right now, this remote parking may work, but it's a long shot on some of these. And I guess as a fail-safe for existing businesses, I think for now, that we would be better off having this provision in here for those existing businesses, and like Main Street.
I would agree if this had a sunset clause, but as soon as you get this in writing, in black and white, and then we have the conversation in this community about businesses paying towards a public parking space or anything like, they're going to say, no, we don't have to do that because we already don't have to provide parking. So I think if this is going to be in here, there should be something about we re-examine it every 2 years, or we see what's going to be happening with public, because they should not be exempt from what could be happening in the future to build up the whole area. I think that's key. Go ahead, Kimmy.
Well,
I'm stopped.
Well, I mean, I kind of agree, because aren't we making the changes to the off-site parking to help these existing businesses that don't have parking?
Yes.
Okay, so why are we then, why would we make the changes then if we're gonna put this clause in there?
Because that doesn't mean that it's practical to find all of the spaces that are out there for parking. And each time you go 500, 1,000, 1,500 feet, you're further from your customer. And it's kind of a choice, but if you do want parking or need parking, you've got that choice for the remote. And I'm just saying, that gives you some options.
Well, I mean, if
They
I got
wouldn't
the
have to do a thing.
option, if I got the option of taking the chance and opening without parking, which, I don't know, to me, that's crazy. But if you got the option of doing it and not spending the money to go lease a parking lot for your customers, your employees, and say, okay, I'm gonna save that money because I don't have to do it because I've got number 8 here. Nobody's gonna go find parking. It doesn't give them a reason to go find parking.
Okay, I see what everybody's saying, but I have a alternative to suggest, which is basically what Tracy said, but instead of saying 2 years, I would think I would probably guess it's gonna take 5 years before a parking lot's gonna be built in that area anyways, and no business is gonna go and try to reopen an empty shell and put the money out if they don't have at least 5 years. So what I'm suggesting is that we add for a period of 5 years after paragraph A, so that way we could revisit this in 5 years, and then if we want to put an addition where they have to pay towards a parking lot or what have you, then we could add that provision 5 years from now, when then there could be a possible parking lot in that area. It's not going to happen in 2 years.
Well, except what Timmy just said is right. If you do that, as a business, I would never even bother to look. I would never we might as well just put that in and get rid of the 1,500 feet and the 400, because you will never bother to look. You'll just say, I can open this and I don't have to have a single solitary parking space, not one.
But the big concern,
Yeah, I'm
but
sorry.
the big concern here, isn't it trying to get some of the vacant properties open?
And that's why we're changing, that's why we started this whole process, to say, let's expand it from 400 feet to 1,500 feet and give some people more options to find property.
We could also, we could do this as a piecemeal situation. We could do what you're saying first and revisit the 5-year period, the number 8 clause a year from now if we don't see things picking up in that area.
Reed, here's my question. When you look at the revision on the second page that calls for the 1,500 foot to be able to find the parking, we've expanded the zone substantially, correct? For the same property we're talking about on the first page, aren't we?
Correct.
Where on the first page, we're saying you don't have to have parking.
Right.
So why are we on one page saying you don't have to have parking?
You can do one or the other.
And on the next page saying, oh, but you have to find it within 1,500 feet. The two seem inconsistent to me.
Well, that is true, and you could, if I had to choose right now, the best option would be to go with no requirements whatsoever. And I like the provision of the sunset because it forces us all to go back and look. And if 4 years from now, nothing has happened, I hope that's not the case, we can relook at that legislation. But with this second part here, that was really, the reason I left that in and said you could have that in addition is if you had a new expansion on your existing business, you could utilize that remote parking.
Oh, so you're saying if you build, no, what he's saying
I see.
is if you
I
build
see.
a building after January 1st of this year,
2012.
Right.
you go to that provision.
To do it, and I was really thinking about additions, if you want to expand, and it's really if you're going to increase,
Okay. So it's not totally inconsistent.
not
I
totally.
see what you're saying.
Okay. Well, that was
I understand.
what I was trying to, all right.
I think we should have some footnotes in there of what we're thinking, not,
This is,
because,
You don't want to know what I'm thinking.
you know,
Well,
about 4 years from now, then they'll say, well, what were they doing?
No, we can't have both. Both don't, you know.
No, you're saying you
no.
can't have both because the second part is for expanded
Well, then
businesses.
say that.
then say new or expanded. I think you need
That's
to
a good
clar-
point. You could be very direct.
Say it.
Just say it like that. Right.
Yes.
because otherwise it does create.
For new or expanded, permitted, or conditional uses other than,
Then you go to the 1,500.
Yeah. Here's my concern. I like the 1,500 feet. If we're going to talk about effectively saying you don't have to have any parking, I would like to see the count on the buildings, or at least have a chance to go look and see what's there, to see how many that may be affected here, to know, are we talking about a half a dozen, or are we talking about 30?
Well, Reed's got to know. He's got to know.
I think I cannot get, let me put it this way.
We've got a map. And actually, there's a map that shows it under the block. But Reed, so technically what you're saying is like right now, I could go between my building and the building where, our other building where Domino's, Baskin Robbins, all that is. And if I decided to go in there and construct and fill up my parking lot with another building and close my parking lot off, I wouldn't have to meet the parking requirement?
no, you would.
No.
Yes.
You would.
You have
No,
to.
you're not a vacant property.
Yeah,
If
you're
you
not a vacant
expand
property.
or you're new, you would.
Yeah.
But
You
You'd
would
have to go
find-
1,500
You could go
feet.
1,500 feet away from your building.
The none is for just vacant properties.
So if they're,
Okay, so for instance,
Close down your
okay, so
business,
if I
make
can-
it vacant.
And that,
well, no, I can't because
It
it's
actually-
January 1st.
okay,
Right.
well, for instance, using a board member's example right now, don't you have a building on the Salty Dog surf shop area right now that's vacant?
The doghouse.
The doghouse. Okay, so if you opened up, using this provision right here, you could open up that business and you don't
Not
have to
provide a
add any
single
more
parking
parking.
No,
That's
well,
correct.
yes, no,
That's correct.
because we've already provided parking for that
Well,
doghouse.
assuming you didn't have the parking.
Right.
though.
Okay, let's take the parking lot that is abutted, the south parking lot that we call it.
Okay.
We could put another building on that parking lot. We wouldn't have the parking requirements right there, but we would 1,500 feet
And
down.
that's
Right,
We could
because
actually
that
go
would be
use Joe Bear's lot.
adding, right.
That's allowable.
But
That
let's-
would be
but-
allowable under
right.
the second,
Okay.
Yeah.
And the second.
yeah.
So let's amend the motion to.
Well, we don't have, do we have a motion?
Well, here, let me.
We don't have a
let me-
motion
Amend
yet.
the proposal.
Okay, well, go
I still
ahead.
don't know how many, even
Well,
with this
Amend the
map.
proposal, so on
that
page
map's
2, we add the words new and additions, is that?
I don't,
New and expanded,
New and expansions?
new and expansion, we changed the,
Expand existing business.
well, can I make the motion?
Yeah, go ahead.
could,
Okay. I'd like to move for item 8 to be reworded as follow. Item 1A to add for a period of 5 years under section 8. And under item 2, to add wordage that says for new or expanded businesses, and to correct after 10 years on item 2E1A, 1B, after 10 years to put comma or 3 years within the RDB 5 zoning district.
and actually it wouldn't be newer expanded businesses, it would just be newer expanded buildings.
Buildings, right. That's what I meant to say, buildings.
All right. I'll second that as,
Could you restate the end of that? This,
not businesses, but buildings.
Buildings.
But then what follows?
There was discussion
We have-
earlier
just a
to
second.
add.
We have a motion and a second. If you would explain the latter part of your motion.
Yeah, there was a part here that said, given the property owner the irrevocable right to use the additional facility for parking for a period of not less than 10 years, and then we had discussion to add, or 3 years in the RDB 5 zoning district. So I'm adding that into this.
That works.
Okay.
Carrie, is that okay? Is that,
Yes, that's consistent with what we had talked
Yeah.
about.
Any other board discussion on the motion?
I do think that without knowing a count of just what this affects, that we could be opening a can of worms here. I mean, if you have 5 vacant buildings, which I think there are more than that, that's one thing. Especially if someone goes in with a restaurant or a bar or anything else that requires seating. This one little temporary parking lot that was approved earlier in George Anderson's on the corner, it's not going to handle this. If you have 30 buildings, that's a huge amount. And I'm sorry, I think you're just creating a problem without at least knowing what it's going to affect. I think that's short-sighted. And I know you guys want parking, but this isn't to say we don't have to do any of it is not going to help your area. Further from the customer, when the customer can't park anywhere except on the,
these are vacant buildings.
right, but they have no parking.
All right, Tracy, let me ask a question. Reed, is there any timeline on this, that it's a time crunch to do tonight as opposed to next month?
No.
Because this goes to the planning board next. It's a language.
So we can have this month to take a look at this ourselves, and you can get us some better numbers too on the buildings that would be impacted.
Yes, and we could come up with a more specific language on this
Okay.
based
Okay,
on
then
this
I
discussion.
withdraw my motion
I'll
and
withdraw the second.
I think that would be better.
All right.
Well, while we have the subject up, do we have any public comments with respect to the proposed motion?
Tracy, to answer your question, how many vacant building? There's 16. From
16?
16, 1-6, all the way down from Speedway, that all 16, there's no way in the world, in even 20 years from now, that any of those stores can get parking. 9 of them are mine, and you guys know the strip center.
yeah.
There is no way, there is no way in the world, and believe me, I tried buying the ocean, water, just to put parking, there's no way. Behind me, forget about it, there's a project going, it's gonna go on. In front of me is the streamline. On the right of me, it's his family, there's no way, because they're already talking to some other people. There is no way that any of those 16 stores, and I'll tell you what, Tracy, and believe me, I have businesses from Speedway all the way down to Bel Air Plaza. There is not 1 inch of parking for existing building. We're not talking about, those buildings were built in the 50s, 60s, and 70s with the idea it's walking, it's not even driving. So all those, if you don't do anything about this problem, those are condemned. I mean, those buildings will stay as they are. No matter how much money we're gonna dump in fixing them, they're gonna be vacant. Because the first thing customer says is, first thing the tenant, where do I park? I tell them, look, I talked to the Maya Inn, I talked to the Ocean Deck, I talked to everybody to let everybody park, but there's so much we can do.
And a lot of those buildings, the parking got eaten up when the A1A expanded,
Yes.
when they were built back in the 50s.
John?
I get that, so where are the people going to park now?
I know.
To answer your question, how many buildings do
Name
not
and
have?
address.
John Nicholson, 413 North Grand Avenue. There are 2 buildings without parking at all, all right? One is a strip shopping center, one is a little building that you can't build, that you can't use. The others have minimum parking. If you look in the back of them, there's 3 parking spaces, there's 2 parking spaces on another one, there's 5 in another one. In order to be open, you have to have, let's say, 7 parking spaces, they have 5. All right, we went through this with that little property right there on Coates. They did not have enough parking, So, in essence, there are streets, commercial streets in our city, that do not require any parking whatsoever. What I'm asking possibly that you might want to do is just suspend the enforcement of this parking for a maximum of 5 years, and treat it like you would any other parking area that does not require parking, so these businesses can open. Many of them have space for their employees, but there's sufficient parking here for these few parking spaces, these businesses, that they can get to wherever they want. What we can't do is leave them empty forever. So let's just do this for 5 years, and then it sunsets in 5 years. And the businesses know that. Going in, you've got it for 5 years. If it doesn't work, you're closed.
Thanks,
Thank
John.
you.
Any other public comments? All right, do we have a motion then to continue this
To
till the
next
next meeting?
month.
Motion, second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right.
But let staff understand that not only do we want our terminology put into the
Yeah,
next
correct
month's
the
budget,
link.
but we also want to know, have a little bit more identification, maybe a map with little arrows, vacant, 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 so that way we understand where the location of.
And how many parking places are at these vacant
Right.
properties? Because some
So-
of them do have 3, and some of them do have 1.
You want to continue it for 2
Come
months?
on, you can.
Just a ballpark.
I need to get out of the office, so I appreciate it.
Weather's been
and
nice, Reed, out there, so
That's
come on
right.
And
out.
great.
And we want you to do it during the rain.
All right, moving on. Redevelopment projects update, Reed.
We saw that.
The pier is now moving, the work's moving very quickly to do everything that's in the contract for Joe's Crab Shack. I don't have any specifics yet, but there's always a few more twists and turns as we're moving that along. And what I hope to do is in our next meeting is have someone here that can speak directly to how things are going at the pier. But right now, it seems to be moving along fine. We're really under the gun to get those parking lots built for the employees and to make sure that's in place. And we should be, and the customer parking is over there already in the lot that you all approved back in September. And there is hopefully some more opportunities that we're working on right now with acquiring land, and we can put some more in. But that's not going to happen right away. But we're working at it. The East ISP redevelopment site, very important that we get those buildings down. It's been really hard to keep the transients out of these structures, I mean, no matter what we do. And so they are finally coming down.
When?
And I would hope in the next few weeks, we've got some things that are going to happen. We've got some logistics we're working out so that SWAT team can go in there and do some work and leave it in a condition the next day that when we do demolition, it'll be that much less. But first things first, there's EPA asbestos removal and all of those things that you really don't see, but it's behind the scenes. That's the work we do first.
By the way, since you brought about the demolition, is next month going to be when you're going to be bringing back to us the terminology for the vegetation and the picket fences and how we're going to try to screen vacant property from
The options we discussed.
Right. Well, oh, yes, thank you. We are going to be bringing that back. We just, there was
That already went
still
to
more
the
work we had to do on the,
Talking about A1A vacant lots?
not on A1A, yes,
On the east
oceanfront.
side.
Yeah,
Well, I know, but he just sparked my memory when he started talking about.
That already went to the planning board.
Yeah.
That's already been
gone.
passed. That's already gone, you guys. That's at the planning board, and that was on our agenda last month.
No, that was a discussion item, though, and we're coming back again with more specific language that you all presented. We're talking about the vegetation,
The
type
natural
of vegetation,
vegetation.
that specific language.
It's already gone to the west.
That's
gone.
done.
Yep.
It wasn't a discussion item at the planning board, I don't think. I think it was an,
Wasn't
I thought it was an action item, because, I mean, Jeff Hurt sat right next to me and made the motion, so we might just want to double check what we actually had in front of us.
There was no specific language about what to change, and that has to be done. And I think
Okay.
the question was, I think you're right in that the motion was, let's move this forward, let's go. And I think this board said the same thing. Let's try to
Okay.
get some
Yeah,
things
but that
done.
came
All right.
before us last time.
Right.
But we were trying to come up with some kind of objective way to determine how to,
Okay,
So we have an IOU in
Okay.
2012,
all right,
okay?
okay.
The E-Zone workshop, want to remind you that on January 25th, that will occur at 4 o'clock. That will be, the CRA will be here. And that will be a presentation that'll be provided that will just bring us back to where we were last fall and allow for more public input.
When, where, and what time?
4 o'clock?
It's
I didn't hear
advertised now for January 25th at 4 o'clock.
And that's here?
Where?
That is here in the commission chambers.
Oh, okay.
And I'd encourage all members to be there for that. I think it would be helpful.
The boardwalk parking lot, just a quick update on that to show you that some of the surface, you might not see a lot of change, but the landscaping, a lot of work was done, irrigation, the concrete curbs and the islands and the trees, plantings were all placed on the interior, and so it's starting to take shape. We're currently have asked for that certification by the landscape architect that everything that was supposed to be in that plan is on site at this time. Also, I think I had one other reminder, so I need to find that. Oh, yes, I have one item I got to pass out here. This is a notice that on Saturday, February 4th at 8:30 a.m., that's a Saturday. If you're interested, there'll be a historic preservation conference that is in part sponsored by the Historic Preservation Board here, and as well as some of the state organizations, other people interested in historic preservation. So if you're interested in that, Saturday, February 4th at 8:30 a.m., runs till noon. That, as I understand it, is all free, and there's a phone number on there and who to contact if you have any other questions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And last thing is just to let you know that on next week, Wednesday, the CRA will be considering the third year of the Streets Team Agreement, and it's the intent to move forward, and that's $20,000 that we have set aside for the street team to continue the streetscape maintenance work that they do. That's it. That's it.
Okay, any board comments? Well, why don't we start around this way first? Teresa, any comments?
I thought it was a great job on the minutes. Having missed the meeting, I felt like I was here for it.
Good.
Virginia?
I think the planters on Main Street look very nice. I'm sure that Helen Humphreys must be happy about that. I only wish she was on the board now so that she could not complain about, no, I don't mean it that way. But not talk about it. And she finally is getting her wishes. And it is a real asset to when you go down Main Street, it looks beautiful. And I just know that those poinsettias have to be watered a lot more than they are getting, or they're going to die on you. They need a lot of water.
They're going to be replaced.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good.
It was just
And
Christmas.
I also agree with John that they should be all down Main Street. I don't know if there's enough money in the budget to do it, but
There was some set aside for phase 2, and
Phase
so
2 should come tomorrow.
we would like
And
to.
because it is a real asset to see something, it doesn't look like a forgotten mother stepchild or something. And I'm pleased to see that. The decorations on Main Street were very nice. As I commented earlier, I was very impressed when I saw them taking those bows down and taking everything and handling them so carefully today. Most generally, men do not handle bows carefully. They just throw them. Well, these guys are doing a good job.
Truman? David?
The only comment I gotta make is follow up on what Ouija brought up tonight, Ouija Pending from the audience, is back to my comments last month as far as itinerant vending and the expansion of Oktoberfest. I really do believe we need to get this on the agenda and quit dancing around and let's bring it out and let's get the public here, and if it takes all night or all month, but we need, the expansion of Oktoberfest is coming for the hot board on the 18th this month, and I think it's more about itinerant vending than it is about expanding Oktoberfest or a TPA or something like that. So again, I reiterate, I would like to get my twin bending and on one of our agendas here shortly.
Coming soon. Tracy?
Actually, I would also dovetail on what Ouija said. Those 5 questions, I think, are important questions to ask. But even more importantly, quite frankly, I want to know what business it is of the HA board to even recommend this for something in the city of Daytona Beach. This is something, when we have events, we have rules suspended in the city. They're done by the city commission, by resolution. I think that the HA board is totally exceeding the bounds of what they should be looking at and should be doing in this, and especially to have this conversation without the city, for the city to hear about this through the news, through the radio. I just find the whole thing slap in the face to us, because we're the ones that bear the brunt of it. I do agree. I think it's a lot has to do with the itinerant vending question, and they're probably looking at more of it on county property. But those questions are really solid questions, and especially having an event here tonight before us that is more of what we'd like to see in the city. And when I spoke with Lori Campbell Baker on this too, they were talking about, she had said they were originally, part of the discussion was to have it earlier in October rather than later, because they didn't want to interfere with the air show. And I said, you know, Lori, you probably would have everyone, you could have 30 days of the air show and no one would be upset.
Oh, yeah.
But to expand something that has the problems that it has for the neighborhoods and, quite frankly, for the city is just the wrong way to go. And I will say, too, and I know, you know, he's not here to say he said that, but certainly it's been said that Mr. Heckman says he speaks for the beach side. He doesn't. He doesn't speak for the Bel Air group. He doesn't speak for the Ocean Dunes group. He doesn't speak for the Seabreeze University group. And I can tell you, those neighborhoods are not happy and do plan on being at that HA board meeting to speak against this.
Tim?
All been said.
Gary?
Yeah, I think that it's important that maybe, Mr. Chairman, if you could make the HA board meeting on the 18th to share with the chairman that there has not been a decision or a recommendation from this board, and that anything they do really should be restricted to county-owned property. I mean, it is a little bit premature, but this is a steamroller that's trying to start. And Reed, you know, we raised this, what, 6 weeks ago when this initial thing started. You were going to check with the manager to see when would be an appropriate time for us to discuss it. Now we're into a situation where you're going to have the county council and the HA board moving, but I think I would like to maybe even move, Mr. Chairman, if you can attend that meeting and share with the HA board, if we want to do even a consensus feeling tonight, that it's not a done deal, and that whether it's Frank or anybody else, it boils down to our city commission, and they're going to look to us for a recommendation. And my commissioners asked me, what are we doing on this? And I've had to tell her that we've been trying to get an agenda item on this, so at least we can voice our pros and cons and maybe even take a vote, because the HA board will look to this board, and if we don't have a decision, it will assume it's okay.
Are we allowed to take a vote today of some sort?
A consensus.
Tonight to do it.
You can do a consensus. You don't have to even have an official motion. The commission operates often on just a consensus at this moment in time. What is your feeling toward the extension of Biketoberfest? I don't like being jammed like this. I think it's very unfair, because I think the forces in favor of it need to have a hearing. We need to understand the options. But Tracy is right. We've all lived with the options for many years, and I'd like to suggest that we the chairman attend, and that we try and give him some sense of where we stand as a board. Carrie, because it's not, hasn't been an agenda item, would it be appropriate for us to vote on it, or?
You can take a consensus or, you
Yeah,
know.
well, I'd like
I
to,
don't think there's any problem with us taking, with a motion being made.
I'd like
seconded,
to move
deal
that.
with an issue, and I think it needs to focus on the fact of how something like that should be approved and should be brought, at the very least, before this board, before it goes to the city commission,
Well,
before any board
yeah.
approval or consideration of it.
I think my motion would better reflect what our anticipated advice to the city commission is going to be, up or down, and not pussyfooting around that we'd like
That's fine.
time to discuss it. So I think I've thought a lot about this. I think we all have. I'd like to make a motion that our chairman represent us and attend the meeting on the 18th, and that he reflect either a show of hands or a roll call vote on whether we are for or against the
Well,
extension.
why don't you just make a motion that we're against it, and then we'll see how the motion
and
passes.
I'd have to check my schedule and such too.
No, the motion has to be made in the
In the
positive.
Positive,
It
okay,
has
so
to be
make
in
it,
affirmative.
Yeah, I'll move then that we support the extension of Biketoberfest in order to make the motion in the positive. But you want to divide the motions, that you attend and represent us?
Well, he
You
doesn't-
would naturally,
and if he cannot,
or the vice chairman.
or the vice chairman. I'll be in Boston that day, so I will not be able to.
You're not the vice chairman.
I know.
Let's deal with them one at a time.
All right, I'd like to move that the chairman, vice chairman, or their representative represent this board at the 18th.
One motion at a time, Gary.
That's the motion, that's the first motion.
That's the first one,
Okay.
the chair.
All right, do we have a
Second.
Any discussion?
I'd like to say something.
Okay.
I just have to say that I find it offensive that this board takes action on matters that are not advertised.
Wait, can you speak more into the mic?
Okay, sorry. It troubles me that this board would take action tonight on a matter that it has not advertised, so that the stakeholders could be present and weigh in on it. I just think if you're going to do this, and I know you've said we could do a consensus, but
Mhm.
I'm just letting you know I think it's inappropriate and not well thought out.
Well,
but
my
we
only
could-
comment with that would be that
We
I don't
have-
think the action would be taken tonight unless there was what we believed premature action being taken by the HA board.
Right.
And the only way we can express our position on it before the HA board meets to make any decision is to do it tonight. So therefore, they've put us in the position of having to do something without putting it on the agenda. And so we're simply doing the best we can under the circumstances.
And we've asked for an agenda item, Teresa, we've asked for the last 6 weeks that this item be brought as an agenda item to give that opportunity, but it hasn't happened, and so we're in a situation, and I'd like to move the question.
Just
And
one
wait,
comment.
Wait,
Is
one
on
last
before you move the
comment.
question.
Go for, on the record, is I agree with Teresa that, unfortunately, the stakeholders can't be here tonight, and I agree that we should have waited, but because of what Dan had just stated, and what the HA board has done and put us in this position, I am going to vote against Gary's motion.
And I will just add one thing. Gary is right. The commission, quite often, in situations like this, will by consensus, which works differently under parliamentary procedure, but at least we'll get an idea of something that's come up that you didn't have an opportunity to deal with. So by consensus, they will go forward with what they want to do.
And if it's
So-
5 to
and
1
that's
or
what
4
I-
to
know,
3.
and-
You know,
that we-
and honestly, I didn't know this was within our jurisdiction.
Mhm,
This was ours to tell the
Yeah.
HA board what to do, but
yeah.
have
No,
at it.
We're not telling the HA board what to do. We're saying what this board's position would be with respect to extending Biketoberfest.
Correct, and nothing more.
Exactly.
Not vending, not any,
Yeah.
none of those other issues.
I second.
So
Let's
the
move the
motion
question.
as presented, a yes vote.
No,
is-
first
No, right now it's-
first we're doing the
Chairperson.
chairman,
Is the
the
chairman or-
vice chairman, or their representative.
Representative
That's the
to
first.
attend.
Yeah.
All right.
Yes.
Then, a yes,
That's-
yes is in favor of
Mhm.
a
How do you
representative
go?
attending. All in favor?
Yes.
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
Teresa's
Second
opposed.
motion is that by either a show of hands or a roll call vote, that we give the chairman some sense of whether we are in favor or not. So I'll move that we accept the extension of Biketoberfest, so the motion is in the positive.
Okay, I second that.
Any discussion on that one?
I want to make sure I understand that.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Sure.
I don't think I can make a motion in the negative. I think,
He can motion to support the expansion of Biketoberfest.
right, right, knowing that I personally am not in favor of that.
Well, that's all right,
either.
you still just make
Well,
the motion.
no, I want to,
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
think we need to clarify what we're doing. So the motion would be to be in favor of the extension of Biketoberfest.
All right.
Now, I want to make sure that we understand how we're voting here. Please explain it again.
That's what I was about to do. A yes vote says that you're in favor of extending Biketoberfest. A no vote says you're opposed to extending Biketoberfest.
Correct.
And I'd like to move for a roll call vote.
All right.
And
Well,
can I ask one more question before we
sure,
go?
please, Teresa.
And if you feel that this whole, going forward on this is inappropriate, I guess,
Then you vote no.
Well,
You can't abstain.
You vote yes.
You vote yes
Yeah,
if
they
you're
vote
yes.
yes, no.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
She could-
I
she
think the
could
vote
give
is
an-
Well, that's true.
inappropriate.
Well,
I mean, the whole vote is inappropriate, so I,
You
She
already
could just
lost
give an
that one.
explanation
Yeah.
for the record. The minutes
Yes.
will reflect
yes.
why she voted the way she is.
Yes, that's
Correct.
right.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right, we'll do roll call vote.
Oh, comment.
All right.
Because of the other motion where one of us two are going to be represented, I would like that y'all's comments, so there's not a violation of sunshine, be emailed to Reed, and Reed gotten those comments back to the two of us. Is that legal?
I thought we're just taking a
No, no, no,
consensus,
this
the
is
Main
a
Street
consensus.
Board.
Okay, You're not in a violation.
Roll call vote, please.
A yes vote means you support expansion, a no vote means you want it the way it is.
Correct.
Correct.
No, that we.
A no vote
we're
means
not-
Biketoberfest will be a 3-day event,
Yeah.
like it is.
All right. Call the roll, please. All right, one more clarification.
The motion is to support the expansion of Bike Week. So if you vote, I'm sorry, Biketoberfest. So if you vote yes, you're supporting a
10-day
2-week,
event.
yes.
Proposed by the HA Board.
And we're proposing in the positive because we have to propose in the positive, even though we intend to vote negative.
Okay.
Is everybody ready? Roll call vote, please.
yes, but I feel that this vote is out of order.
Thank you. Virginia?
Yes, and I feel the same as Teresa, that it should have been published to give the stakeholders in the Biketoberfest businesses an opportunity to be here and voice their opinions, so that we could understand what they how they're feeling.
Consensus.
Truman?
Yes.
No.
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 No. And I feel that we explained it last month, and we wanted it brought before us this month. So I think I'm comfortable with a
Motion
no.
fails 6-3. All right. Any other public comment or board comments? 'Cause I have some. All right. In that same vein, and what I want to propose that we bring up for discussion is the entire concept of, in order to deal with the E-zone, what recommendations that this board would make to the City Commission and the CRA to deal with the E-zone with respect to Bike Week and Biketoberfest. And my thought process on that is we should do it in 2 meetings. We should look at it before this Bike Week conceptually as to areas that we think are of concern. And then we should use the information we gain there and look at how Bike Week goes. And then come back after Bike Week and formulate and have another meeting and obtain input with respect to what our recommendations would be with respect to Biketoberfest and Bike Week in order to deal with the E-zone plan.
I'd support that, Mr. Chairman. I think the bigger issue is going to be on vending.
That's all part of it.
And that's the critical, that's going to be the critical
But I
issue.
don't want to limit it merely to the itinerant vending
Well, many
issue.
people can support Biketoberfest and Bike Week without outdoor vending. many people, those same people would not support it if we continue with outdoor vending. So it's a critical issue on
Right.
which decisions hinge. And I think we're gonna hear a lot of discussion at Hot Board, and I think we should talk about the vending issue as well, because if you look at the E-zone
I
plan,
think he's saying that.
carefully look at the E-zone plan, it raises the question. And I think the commission, as we're operating as a CRA, is gonna look to us for some advice.
And that's why I think we need to get out in front on it, and I want to look at it.
Well, let's not forget vending, because.
No, vending is a major,
The last couple months, it's been all about it.
itinerant vending is a major part of it, but I don't want it limited to that. I want to look at the broader scope as to what we, with respect to this board, can reach a consensus with respect to different other items that we may want to look at with respect to the Bike Week, Biketoberfest.
I have another issue. Could we get, Carrie, I don't know if the city's looking at the California Supreme Court decision on CRAs or not, but they have ruled against.
We haven't been talking about that in the office at this point.
Okay. The third item would be that oftentimes we request information from you for the follow-up meeting, and oftentimes, most of the time, it's there. But is there some way in the minutes or in the agenda where you can report on those requests from the past? Because we put a lot of pressure on you to remember, like, things we ask in the body of the minutes, and the minutes are not verbatim, so oftentimes some of the requests get cashiered.
Well, we do, as a part of that, when we have a proofing and a review of the minutes.
Okay.
So we do try to
Action
capture
item.
all of that, and then that reporting should show up. Anything that you've asked for, something
Okay.
we should be doing, should be in my staff report
Okay.
that you get.
Thank you.
Very briefly, I want to go back to my suggestion as to how we would schedule this, if the idea of a two-pronged approach to it makes sense to the rest of the board.
So,
But
run that once more, what you're saying?
My concept is we have a meeting before this bike week and discuss the areas that we think are of concern, and have it on the agenda.
Like
And-
outdoor vending.
And I think that would probably be February would be best. So we get it on the February agenda, a bike week, Biketoberfest, recommendations or issues with respect to the E-zone. And we discuss those things, and then we take a look at how Bike Week actually goes, gives us a chance to go down and hands-on, take a look at those things once again while it's fresh, and then come back right after our next meeting, after Bike Week, and have a full-blown public input and discussion with respect to areas of concern and recommendations to deal with the E-zone for Bike Week and Biketoberfest.
if I could just say one thing, actually, I think framing it actually in the bigger concept of special events and what happens in special events, not just Bike Week and Biketoberfest, but what happens. I don't think most people realize the number of things that are in the code that are suspended during events, whether it's a spring break event, and so I think looking more at the bigger picture and those concerns with what happens so we can have these kinds of events might be a...
And that's fine too, and I don't have a problem with that concept. And part of that read, and what we're going to need from the staff beforehand, is we're going to need to see also all of those provisions of the ordinances or codes that are suspended. Okay?
There's quite a bit.
So what is, what's authorized that's not normally permitted?
That's not legal the rest of the year.
That's right. We
And,
wanna
and,
see-
and not only for private property, for public property too.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
because there's
some big
provisions for Oceanfront Park that's event specific versus event related. And I'll be honest with you, Paul Wessler didn't know the difference a year ago. I'm sorry. I know he's going to get mad at me for saying that, but it's the truth. When I said it to him, and he's like, "Well, what's the deal?" I go, "Whoa, whoa, whoa,"
There's a big
you know.
Yeah. First, especially in the first meeting, I think we need to be brought up to speed on what is being done, that's not normally permitted, so we can understand that. and look at these things in a little more informed perspective. I don't want to have to be doing anything in a rushed manner. And I want to look at it and, you know, first be informed, then look at it and come back and get more information and make as informed a consensus decision on some issues as we can. Okay? So if we can look at the agenda for February to put that on, and then whatever the first agenda is after Bike Week in March, because
So it would be April then.
would it be April? Yeah, it would
It'd
be
be
April.
April from when it
Yeah,
falls.
because it can be May
Yeah.
or June for me, so
Yeah, it
April.
would be April.
Mr. Chairman, just to end the general discussion, I just want to say that the boardwalk did a few $1,000s worth of Christmas decorations, but it wasn't anywhere significant. You know, the rope lighting, I mean, was barely visible. I mean, I would like to see some expansion of the Christmas holidays. I mean, I guess my Santa Claus was visible, but that was about it, you know?
You know, you can expand anything you want with money, go as much as you want to put in.
Yeah.
Gary, what was the date of that HOB board meeting?
The 18th.
18th?
It's at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay.
Chamber
In Daytona Chamber?
Yep.
Thank you. Nothing else? We'll stand adjourned. Thank you all very much.
You too, Virginia. Well, I mean it. And they were prompt. I meant to say that. You keep up the good work.
Will you please tell my friend, Jeannie, thank you?
To get this thing.
Thank you, thank you,
To
thank
get
you.
people here.
Right
We
here.
have tried, Dave has,
Yeah,
I've
but
asked
she did
3
it again
times.
this time.
Last time we were here, we
Yeah,
threw
tell her
ourselves
thank
on
you.
his mercy to